So immediately episode 2 just goes into full swing with Fisk giving up his speech to New York City and giving them some reassurance. But hey, fast forward, we see two guys beat up this other dude in this train station, and this other dude walks up to them saying, hey, you gotta break this up, what the hell is going on here, stop beating on this dude. And he intervenes, trying to help out before we know things happen so fast. Then boom, one person trips off, and immediately a fast coming train just crushes the guy to bits, I mean literal bits. And this other guy that was fighting off this other dude immediately just rolls away and pulls off his badge. That's one of the guys that were beating up the first dude that we saw at the entrance. Just pulls up a police badge and boom, he said, hey, you're under arrest. I was like, oh my, actually they're gonna twist this thing against this guy, and boom, that's what happened. Immediately we're off to the station, then trying to sucker this guy for some confession, and they're just beating his ass up. And MODOK was coincidentally there, just hearing what was going on, and he says, I will be your champion. Oh no, not like that. He immediately goes into there and asks what went wrong, as he was hearing a bit of what was going on, to just elicit the truth. And turns out he was telling the truth, obviously, that he was being framed for something that he didn't do. He just went there to break off a fight. And MODOK was like, I will be your champion. And the guy looked at him and MODOK asked, is there any other thing I need to know? And the guy says no. And MODOK knew that wasn't an honest answer. Alright, fast forward to later, MODOK has taken this to his colleague, that's Christine and Cherry, and saying, we're gonna represent this dude that's been accused of killing a cop. And they were like, are you nuts? This will look like you're going against the cops. This isn't gonna end well. And MODOK was like, he's innocent, we gotta give this a shot. I reminded her, that is one of his colleagues, Christine, why they do what they do. No, he says they take on the hard cases, which is things like this. Alright, so he sets off Cherry to go find any further evidence on Hector, that is the person that they're representing. Okay, so boom, immediately they have gone off to his apartment looking for any further stuff to see if the police would get such evidence and use against them. So immediately, boom, Cherry has entered into Hector's bedroom while Christine was getting a bit of information and also stalling the wife. Okay, and immediately we see him drag out a white hoodie which looked like the vigilante we saw in an earlier video before all this. And I was like, so that's him, that's the guy. And oh my goodness, I didn't know how far this was going to go at this point, but hey, since we're really about to get into a crazy full-on crazy insanity at this point, but hey, we kept moving. Okay, but before all this, they first had the pre-trial hearing, and immediately before MODOK could even plead his own case, the judge was like, he's accused of taking out a New York City police officer. No bail. He's gonna be remanded without any bail. And I was like, okay, man, this is not gonna go well at all. But hey, let's see. And this is how the legal cases do go. It looks like they're not gonna have a shot, but at the end, things just get twisted up, and man, it just turns out into MODOK's favor. But let's see how this is gonna go, because it's a crazy full-on allegation of being accused of killing a cop. I wonder how they're gonna get this guy out of all this. But hey, I was not ready for what's gonna happen next. Okay, fast forward later, we see a little lady being introduced to Fisk, and was like, who's this girl? And turns out to be BB Yurik. That is Yurik's niece. Now she's coming on saying how Fisk can win the city by, also winning the cops and whatnot. That will be the best way he can win the city, so he shouldn't lose the cops' favor no matter what. And before now, man, Fisk was already totally having the falling out with the head of the police. And I was like, way to go. Let's see how it's gonna fix all that. So she ended up by saying, if you lose the cops, you lose the city. And then she mentioned something that Fisk hates to hear: vigilantes are picking up the slack. And that's when Fisk just gave her a cold stare. Before she finished her statement, I was like, well, this is heading somewhere. And right now we're having MODOK going to represent a guy who's accused of killing the cops. I wonder if Fisk going to wade into all this. I mean, how is this gonna go? I mean, it was just a whole full-on trail of thoughts going through my mind at this point. But hey, let's keep seeing how things go from here on out. So fast forward to later on, we see MODOK going to visit Hector in his jail cell, and well, him confronting him about being the white tiger, and Hector saying people needs a hero, so he puts on the hood every night to go out there and help out. And MODOK could really relate to what he was saying and whatnot, because as he was speaking, it was also speaking to MODOK's heart with it on his whole full-on countenance, and I was like, Modoc, are you hearing this? Are you hearing this? And I was like, let's see how all this goes. If this will jolt Modoc's interest in putting on back his own Daredevil suit. Well, let's see how this goes. So later on, we see the police chief come to tender in his resignation towards Fisk, and Fisk was like, you know, the cheesesteak in Philadelphia are good. And he was like,
Philadelphia.
And I was like, what's this guy getting? And the next minute, boom, Fisk showed him a photo of his kid that he has somewhere that Fisk has obviously been trailing, and he was right now about to threaten the head of the police to stay on the job and do your goddamn job because I need you here. But he didn't say that, it's just Fisk's manipulative way of doing what he does best by controlling every and anybody to always do what Fisk wants, and we just saw it, and I was like, well, he's sliding back to his old ways bit by bit. There's no form of good change to Fisk because this is him. This is him, Kingpin, controlling and manipulating stuff, and he is just right here doing exactly that. And I was like, well, this police, you really have it coming, man. So you better take up that your resignation letter and get back to work. So Fisk totally ended it by saying no pay increases and no overtime bonus, no additional police staff, just go do what you can with what you have immediately, no questions asked. And I was like, wonderful, Kingpin, way to go. Well played. And the police chief was like, alright, I'll stay, be careful what you wish for. And I was like, there's gonna be a bit of friction here, but hey, let's hope Fisk doesn't go taking him out in a gruesome style. We all know how Fisk likes doing, not directly, but he knows how to do things indirectly and just wreck the person totally. But hey, let's see how all this goes from here. Alright, as things progress, Modoc had a private meeting with the judge together with a representative of the police force, saying that they shouldn't introduce any other further evidence pertaining to, the White Tiger being Hector or Hector being the White Tiger and whatnot in the future after now, okay, and whatnot. Seeing that, there's like him being the vigilante on one hand and what happened under the train station are just like two separate events, and he wasn't even with the clothing at all, so they shouldn't introduce that in the trial whatsoever. And the judge was like, what's this guy getting at? Okay, and I was like, Modoc, you want to do something, and I'm guessing what you want to do, but hey, let's see how all this plays out and see how he gets this guy out and acquitted, if you can convince the jury. But hey, let's see how things go from here, man. So just getting more and more interesting bit by bit as the episode was just progressing. I was like, I'm all here for it. Alright, so fast forward to later on, we see Modoc just standing by the riverside and just thinking, and Cherry brings up the news that they got nothing of the suspect that Hector was trying to save. Cherry goes on to tell Modoc that his judgment is clouded because of the nature of who Hector is and him being a vigilante and whatnot. And Modoc says he is innocent, he is telling the truth. And Cherry said, well, that doesn't matter if you cannot prove it. And gosh, they were at a dead end here, where that's what it all looked like. Then man, Modoc immediately went on to tail that remaining police officer that arrested Hector down in the train station, who was also involved in beating that suspect, and he just had the idea that they'll be going for the suspect to erase him, saying that that's the only last chain that they could use to get Hector out free, But so tailed him, and immediately, boom, they're making a call that they have gotten wind of his location and his address, and immediately they're cocking their guns, ready to go full-on guns blazing to this guy's apartment, and boom, immediately Modoc just dashed forth into this guy's apartment, quickly telling him to run off. As the police are getting there, no time, immediately tells him that he has a guy, so park, go there and meet him, and immediately he just goes, boom, the cops enter, that guy and one other guy that he was being accompanied by, and then the shady officer proceeds to ask Modoc, where did he go? And Modoc was like, if you're looking for this man, he's no longer here, unfortunately. And they were like, bro, what the fuck do you know that? Jacks him up, slams him on the door, and immediately his partner checks the apartment, and turns out that the guy had gone out, and they asked Modoc, where did he go? Modoc was like, you're not gonna see him. Well, they just started pounding this guy, like stomping him with nuts, kind of beating him left, right, and center. But next minute, the cops told this guy, take him out. And immediately they pulled off his gun, trying to blow off Modoc's head. Modoc was like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. And oh my goodness, before they could cock and shoot, oh man, MODOK totally loses it and fends off these guys, smash their head left, right and center, and immediately just slams them so fast, so quick, and knocks them out in a very violent, crazy, brutal Daredevil style, man. And I was like, yes, this is what I signed up for. What the hell, man? I was just clapping and clapping and clapping, man. Oh man. Oh, and I was just on my seat, just continually just clapping, and I was totally so elated because I was like, isn't MODOK going to fight back? How will he just let these guys just beat him up like this? I was like, there's no way. And boom, immediately he just snapped and just took these people out, and I was just happy. I was like, yes, this is what I signed up for. Wow. So there, the episode came to a wrap and played super banger in this song, and I was like, yeah, so fitted, man. The episode started off all chilled, but man, it just turns out to be so freaking amazing. Okay, yeah, and lest I forget, also, they booked a therapy session for Fisk and Vanessa with MODOK's new girlfriend, and I was like, hey, here's all this heading to. And what will happen if MODOK finds out that she is doing therapy for Fisk, although she doesn't really know the true Fisk or thereabouts. So I was like, man, how's this gonna go? So yeah, there the episode wrapped up after the whole encounter with the two police officers with MODOK, and man, gosh, I was just so impressed, totally impressed with how all this was taken and how everything was going, man. And I just couldn't wait for how they are going to present Hector's case properly in the main trial and see if they could convince the jury and get Hector acquitted. Well, that's where this all wrapped up, and I was just on the edge of my seat, thinking, wow, it was just so awesome, man, so freaking phenomenal. And I was just happy that, the tempo, the intensity still remained, and man, even with episode 2, I was still very much vested into this whole show, and I was like, yes, oh yes, Disney, you didn't shit on this, and I was just so glad because, man, oh man, well, Marvel and Disney stuff has already been going well lately, so, well, you don't blame me for expecting the worst from this, and man, turns out this really totally blew my expectations. Like, blew past what I expected, up and away, and it was just so awesome. Couldn't wait for more. So yeah, that's where the episode ended, and yeah, that's how everything went. So well, you'll get the next review later. So tell me what you think of this. Did you enjoy it? And if you would like to see further reviews like this, alright. And yeah, I'll anchor this here. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe button. I'm my humble self, Paul, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.